Okay, welcome to the spring semester of 2013. My name is Jeff Diamond, and I will be your instructor for Intro to Flash. And today we've got plenty to cover over the next 2 hours, and we're going to start with reviewing the website and details related to that. So we're looking at my home page, and the home page, as you can see, has my telephone, my email. Best way to get a hold of me is to send me email. Be sure to include your class name in the subject line. In addition, I have a jobs board that's a link to various jobs boards that are related to web, Flash, etc. And it's good to just become familiar with what types of jobs are being offered out there. So that's why I have that jobs board listed up there. On my home page, you'll see the first 3 steps that we need to take a quick peek at are the schedule page, the FAQ page, and the forms page. When I click on this link to my schedule page, it brings up this window that shows you that on Wednesdays I teach online 2 different classes, my Dreamweaver class as well as my Flash class. And the most important thing I want to share with you about my schedule page is the fact that in addition to my class times, you'll see my office hours are on Tuesday and on Thursday. And my office hours on Tuesday are online. You click on this link to go into my online office. And Thursday they're face-to-face, but if you are remote, you can always call me and we can use that online office as well. Okay? The FAQ page is an important page for knowing what's required of you for this class. A couple of things that I want to just mention on the FAQ page. For next week, one of the things that you turn in for next week is the Getting Started quiz. The information in the Getting Started quiz is primarily based on this FAQ page. There are a few questions that are from other portions of my website, but it's mostly from the FAQ page, so you want to familiarize yourself with the content that is here. There are a few issues that I want to just make sure that are clear at the beginning. Your assignments are due midnight of the due date, so today is Wednesday the 16th. The next assignment, which is due, your first assignment, which is due Wednesday the 23rd, is due Wednesday the 23rd by midnight. Okay? Homework and tests. All of the multiple choice quizzes are online. Homework is due, as I said, by midnight of its due date. Your homework is, you get 1 late assignment per semester. So that's point 3 here. You can submit 1 late assignment per semester. Aside from that, there is no credit given for late work. And if you do email me, if you do submit an assignment late, you'll want to make sure to email me after you posted that late work, because once the due date has passed, I normally do not go back and look for old assignments. So if you do submit any assignments late, you'll want to email me that you have submitted that late assignment. Okay? The rest of the stuff that's in here on the FAQ page, you'll want to take a few minutes to review on your own. As I said, the content on this page shows up in that first quiz. Okay? Third, we have the forms page. So especially for an online class, forms can be useful in terms of students who will have questions about various problems that come up with the software. They're new to the software, they have questions about it, or maybe they have questions about where to buy the software, or a whole bunch of different things that might pop up. And the forum is a great place to post your questions and post answers to those questions. By the end of the semester, I know that normally there are a handful of students who answer quite a few of the questions and that other students post. And when it's time for me to assign a final grade, if a student is kind of on the cusp between two grades, it's those students who answered a lot of questions on the forum that I'm more likely to give them the little extra that they need to get over the top to the next grade. So the forum is available for you. You click on the link on the forum page, you click on post a message, you type in your username and your password. And the username and password is your Kate username and password. And then you fill out this form and you send the message. Okay? So that's the schedule page, the FAQ page, and the forum page. Now, obviously, since you're in this room, you were able to set up your Illuminate. You were able to set up your computer to work with Illuminate. From what one of my other students have told me, on the Mac OS X, with the current version of Chrome, there are some problems installing Java 7 into Chrome, so some of the Mac students might have to use Firefox or Safari, not Chrome currently. Just a little something to be aware of. One other thing that I want to point out about the Illuminate interface, and this is something that you can adjust on your computer, and if in the top of your screen you'll see it says Edit Preferences at the top of the CCC Confer screen. And if you bring up your preferences by selecting Edit Preferences, you'll see towards the middle-ish bottom section of the preferences it says Session. And this checks your connection speed. Well, it allows you to adjust your connection speed. So if you think you don't have a fast connection for some reason, you'll want to change your connection speed to the connection speed that's appropriate for you. And the program then does its best to optimize the synchronicity of the delivery of the audio and video together. So that's Edit, Preferences, Session, Connection. Okay? So that's my home page, and what we're going to do now is take a look at all the rest of the content on the web page, and then we'll get started working with Flash. So okay, I'll get back to that, Richie. Okay, so we saw the home page. We see this. We already saw the schedule page. This is my link to my classes, and we'll get to those classes in just a minute. Then we've got the online resources. The online resources includes class forums, my online office, and my video archives. If I choose class forums, and that's available on every page of my website from the online resources link, if I choose class forums, you'll come to this page. This is Welcome to the Forum. If you want to post a message to the forum, you'd click over here, and then you'd fill out the form. Okay? And one of the things that happens with the forum, now there is no need to log in for the forum. Well, let me back that up. Okay, so when it comes to the forum, when you post a message, you're going to need to log in with your Kate account. Now that's on the first page's assignment, so I'll I'll get to that in a minute, but just to know that when you click post a message, it's the Kate username and password, which is part of the first week's assignment that you complete setting up your username and password. Now, one thing that happens when you post a message, everybody in the section gets that message. A lot of people enjoy having that community, but if you are inundated with messages, you can always opt out of the forum. In addition, there's the online office. The online office is a place where you would go to check in with me when you're running into problems for some reason, and you would click on that link to Online Office, and it launches my Adobe Connect Office. The Adobe Connect interface is a little bit different than the Illuminate interface, but it allows you to see my screen. I can then have you share your screen, and that is really a very useful tool for students who are running into issues that they may need for me to see their screens so I can help them troubleshoot what the problems are. Okay, so that's the online resources online office. Finally, there's the archives. For those students who are not participating live during my lecture for this online class, those students need to watch the archive. So you go to the archives page, you click for this class on Flash. Again, you put in your Kate username and password, and apparently with Kate, sometimes you have to put in your username and password twice. I guess they want to make sure that you really know what you're doing. So once you get into Kate, you'll see this little explanation here which says that this link takes you to the master list of recordings. Once you arrive at the landing page, you'll see a list similar to the image below. And then you select the recording that you want to watch according to the week's number on the left. So the week's number on the left here is 1, and that's the recording button. So if I click on this link here, and these are my links from my last semester's Flash classes. So if I wanted to watch week 1, I would then click on play, and it would launch that recording. Okay? So that's how you get to the archives page. That's how you get to the video archives from my online resources. I already talked to you about the FAQs page, and the links we don't really need to spend any time with right now, just so you know that I have sets of links for audio, for web design, for Flash, all kinds of interesting Flash links that are available here on this web page. But at this point, what I want to do is take you to the Flash web animation homepage and talk to you about this class in particular. When I click on Flash web animation, it takes us to the Flash web animation homepage, and during this class you'll be introduced to the use and implementation of web-based animation tools. Students are going to use Flash to create basic vector-based animations, examine the concepts that make a quality interactive animation, complete a thorough exploration of the tools, introduce and utilize basic ActionScript, and not even basic, but a little bit more advanced ActionScripting. Not advanced, but intermediate for sure, and produce animations. Okay, what's required for this class? First of all, you need the Flash CS6 Professional Digital Classroom by Fred Gerantaby, and you need Flash CS6 software. Okay, The student version of the software, standalone software, is about $140. You can purchase Flash CS6 from this link, go to the SRJC bookstore and purchase it. And if you don't want to purchase the software, you can use the computer labs both on the Santa Rosa and the Petaluma campuses. Our meeting time is every Wednesday from 1 until 3. And when you come to this page or my schedule page, you can click on this link that says click online classroom to participate live, and then you enter this passcode. And obviously you need some speakers or headphones to be able to hear me during the class. Let's see, to watch the video recordings, like I said, you select Archives from the Online Resources drop-down menu and make sure your computer is pre-configured by clicking on this link. But since you're all in the room, then you're already pre-configured away. Okay, now they're getting back to what Richie asked earlier. How do you get into the forum? Well, the first week's assignment is, one of the things that you need to do in the first week is you need to complete the check-in process. And to complete the check-in process, you click on this link from the Flash web animation homepage, and you would enter your first name, your last name, your email address, your 9-digit student ID, and you would create a username and a password and click on Submit. So this is your Kate username and password that you create, and only you know the username and password. Okay, you're able to reset it within the Student Configuration Manager, but you are the only one who has access to that information. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do, if you haven't done so already, is to complete the check-in process. By completing the check-in process, you'll be able to access all of the other things that you need to in this class, which includes your grades page. It also includes access to the forum, access to the online videos, archives, access to the quizzes, the midterm quiz and the final exam quiz, and access to the Dropbox, because you're going to be uploading your files for this class to the Dropbox. So we use Kate pretty extensively in this class for the functionality that we need. Other things that you'll see available on the Flash web animation homepage include links to instructional videos, like you'll see here. It talks about a looping graphic video, a homework 2 video, a basic animation techniques, a timeline concept video. These are all little videos that I put together that will help you complete the various assignments. And you'll also see a link to the Dropbox, as I already said, and finally a link to the student work examples. So what I'm going to do now, because we want to spend as much time dealing with Flash as possible, I want you to get a little taste of some of the work that is done during the class. So during this class, you complete 5 homework assignments and a final project. Okay? So with that being said, it would be nice to know what some of these homework assignments might look like. The homework 1 assignment, the first assignment that you're going to be creating for this class, is related to just learning the basic tools in Flash. There's nothing animated about it. It's simply learning the drawing tools. So I'm going to show you some examples of homework 1 projects, and then I'm going to show you some exemplar homework 1 projects. So let's go from the last year's fall semester, you'll see here's a gallery that has all of the different homework ones that have been created. And some of them are really good and some of them are right? But you can see here's a really cute one, right? This is somebody had a lot of fun with pigs on unicycles, okay? And we see some people did a little bit more thematic, and then some people did some very basic things, right? So you can see there's all kinds of level of artists in the class. You don't have to be an exceptional artist in order to complete the assignments. The main thing to do is to really explore all of the tools inside of the program and do your best. And you can see there's some really fine work. And like, for example, in this picture here, we have the bird. Maybe it's an egret or a heron, but you know, there's a lot of detail that was put into that object on the stage. And then you have some that don't have much detail at all. Okay? The main thing, like I said, is really exploring the program and doing as much as you can with it. Okay? Let's take a look at a couple of examples from this past semester. And you'll see the first example is animated. Now, that was not required for this homework assignment, and there are going to be many opportunities for you to animate your work. So don't do it for the first assignment. You really don't need to. Okay? Here's something that looks pretty simple but came out very nice, charming. Okay? And you'll see there's various examples that use the various drawing tools inside of the program. Some of them are, as I said, very basic. Some of them are a little bit more sophisticated. So a whole bunch of different types. Finally, some exemplars. Here's an example of a homework one example that's just done very, very well. Used pretty basic tools aside from the leaves that were, you know, copied, the trees that were copied and pasted a bunch of times, and the shadows. That took a lot of time, but it is fairly basic, and it's all 2D, right? Two-dimensional. Here's another example, which is kind of interesting. Use of repeating lines and repeating objects of different sizes. And a third, the lizard. Okay. One thing that you just noticed when I scaled this window up, I didn't lose any quality, and that's because this is vectors. Vector graphics do not pixelate. There are no pixels involved. Okay, so those are some examples of just the very first assignment that you're going to be creating for this class. By the second assignment, you're already into some animation, as you can see here. Let's see. So we see there's some animation happening. By the third assignment, you're working with panning and walk cycles. Here's another example of panning and walk cycles. This happened right around Halloween, so you see there's a certain number of things that are thematically related to Halloween. Or not. Okay. By the fourth assignment, you will be working with ActionScripting, controlling movie clips with ActionScripting. So while this may look like a basic animation still, there's a fair amount of ActionScript, which is the programming language that is creating this. Okay? By the fifth assignment, you're going to be creating tabbed folders. And this, again, is all done with ActionScript. And finally, for your final project, you create a complete, full Flash dynamic website. And you'll see here that this is just an example of, let me give you what I think is a little bit better of an example. This is an example of where you would hear music, you would go to different sections, you would navigate. This is really a miniature version of the full site. I'll show you a full version of that right over, let's see. Oh no, that's not quite it yet. I'll give you another one. Okay, so this is a website where you go and basically you have controls that take you to various sections where you'll have a photo gallery, where you'll have various videos that appear, where you can turn your music on and off, where then you can navigate back to the home page, you can send email. Basically, it's a full site, which includes scrolling text, and this is an example of what a final project would look like. Okay? So that's what you'll be doing during the course of the semester, and the student work examples page is designed just to give you some inspiration, not any perspiration. Okay? That takes us to the assignments page. And that takes us to today, Class 1, where we're talking about the administrative details, basically reviewing the website, and then introducing Adobe Flash CS6, which is what I'm going to do right now. But first, I want to give you guys a moment if you have any questions that you want to ask related to the material that I've covered up until now, or any other questions that you may have. So if you have any questions, feel free to just type them in the chat window right now, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Let's see. You say, I saw your link on CS6 that does not include the book. Now, the book and the software are completely different animals. So, yeah, you have to purchase the book and to purchase the software. A link to the book, I see what you're saying. Well, here's one thing that I often do to get the best price on books is I go to a website called addall.com. And I'm going to put that in the chat window here. And you'll see that if I take this ISBN, I just copy the ISBN, Command or Control C, I go to Add All, and I choose Search by ISBN, and I type in that ISBN number. I click on Find It. And it scours mucho bookstores. It just scoured 36 bookstores for us and found that at textbooks.com, you could get it for $26.57. So, and that includes, by the way, shipping. Click on Buy, and it takes you there. Now, you see Amazon has it listed for $25.88, but that doesn't include the $3.99 shipping. But if you go back to my assignments page, you'll see that if you set up a student.santarosa.edu email account, and then after you set up the email account, what that does is it gives you an EDU email address. It's only with an EDU email address that you can register for 6 months free shipping on Amazon, because you'd have an Amazon student account. Okay? And then, of course, if you were looking for that same book, you'd be able to get it without paying any shipping for $25.97. Okay? Free Super Saver shipping. Okay? So, you can save a great deal of money. I use my Amazon account all the time because 2 days shipping for free is, you know, just a super deal. And it's free for 6 months, and after that it is $39 a year, but you can always cancel your membership or continue to use it. I use mine all the time. I'm happy to pay for it because in addition, and I'm just going to sign in so you can see what I mean, in addition to your free shipping, one of the other things that you get with the Amazon Prime account is you get Amazon Cloud Drive storage, as well as unlimited instant videos. So all of these videos are free. So you get, you know, hundreds of hours of TV shows and movies, and all of that is part of your Amazon Prime membership. So you want to be aware of that fact that in order to get the book, you can simply, you know, search on your own. You can go to the bookstore. However you decide to do it, you're going to need to purchase the book and make sure that you have that for class. Other things that you have to do for next class is you, like I said, complete the check-in process on the Flash homepage, and then read lessons 1 and 14. And those are the things that I'm going to focus on today, right after I give you guys another opportunity. If anybody has any questions related to the material on my website, on the home page, schedule page, online resources, the FAQs, the links, anything on the Flash web animation page, or anything that I've covered up until now. Are we all good with all of that? Thumbs up. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so that being said, let's learn about Flash. Okay, I've launched Flash. I'm on the Flash homepage. And the first thing that you see when you launch Flash is the Flash welcome screen. You also see an output panel, a timeline panel at the bottom, a compiler editor, a motion editor, and on the right-hand side, a library and a properties. But you only see those things, and you only see those things depending upon the workspace that you've chosen. For this class, I will be using the classic workspace. So the classic workspace, and sometimes I use the essentials. I mean, in all honesty, I switch off between those two. but the classic workspace sets things up a little different than the essentials. The properties panel is still on the right, but the timeline is at the top of the screen instead of the bottom. The toolbars are on the left, and access to the panels are just to the left of the properties. So it's just a little different than the essentials that has this toolbars on the right and the properties and library in between the toolbars. Okay, so usually in class I go between both the essentials layout and the classic layout. Just so you know, you can make changes to any layout that you want, and after completely screwing up your screen and getting lost as much as possible, you say, I liked it the way it was originally. All you'd have to do is select Essentials, Reset Essentials, and it puts everything just back to the way that you wanted it. Okay? Now, during this class, we're going to be working with files in the Flash Professional CS6 Digital Classroom book. Now, just to be clear, the homework assignments are not directly files from this book. You're creating your own homework assignments, but the homework assignment files that you create are based on skills that you develop within the lessons. So you're not turning in any files from the book, okay? But you still want to use the lesson files from the book and the videos from the book. That being the case, what you want to do is you want to take the DVD out of the back of the book. Here's my DVD right here. There's the DVD. Look, it's sitting right on top of the microphone. I put it inside my computer. My DVD, inside the computer it goes. Going back, I go open up the DVD player, and I move those files to a location on my hard drive. The reason is you don't want to have to, every time you are doing your lessons, you don't want to have to put in your DVD to your computer. So just take those files. Let me minimize some things here that are jumping in the way and being annoying. You take those files and you save them. Oh, come on, just close, would you? Thank you. And you save them to a location of your choice. In my case, I put them in a folder here called Flash CS6 Digital Classroom. And that includes, my Flash lessons, as well as the videos. So I can take all of the files on that DVD and put them on my hard drive. Now, what about those videos? You'll see inside of that videos folder, there's this thing, a little Flash icon. And basically, this launches the Flash standalone player, and it allows you to watch all of the lessons that are associated with each one of the chapters in the book. The nice thing about this is by using the videos before completing the lessons, you'll have gotten a really nice jump start on everything. Things will make a lot more sense to you as you move forward, and it will really speed up your level of productivity. You'll save yourself time by watching these videos. Most of the videos are anywhere from 5 to about 12 minutes long, but it's time well spent. Okay, so you're going to want to move your video files as well as your lessons to your hard drive and then access them there. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to Flash, and we're going to talk about this welcome screen. So there are a lot of really neat features on the welcome screen here. There are access to a whole set of templates. So I can create Flash files from various templates that are here. I'm going to click where it says More, and that launches this New from Template window. But from that same New from Template window, you actually get access to a whole set of sample files. And these sample files are a great way to explore the program. For example, handwriting. I click on OK. I click on Enter or Return. And I see this little handwriting animation. Now, the stage color makes it very hard to see, so I go to the Properties panel on the right-hand side. I choose where it says Properties Stage. I click on the background color chip, and I change the background of my stage. I hit the Enter key again, and it animates those letters. So a couple of things that, as a result of examining a start file, that you see right away is you've got a timeline, and each letter is on a different layer of this timeline. And you've got these numbers on the top of the layers. These are frame numbers, because Flash is a time-based, frame-based, keyframe-based animation program, right? Each number represents a slice of time. So by looking at this timeline, here's my first challenging question for the day. By looking at this timeline, which has 125 frames, how long exactly does this movie last? And how can I tell? I'm going to actually change to classic, so this might actually make it a little easier to answer that question. Here we go again. I put my playback head on the very first frame. I hit the Enter key. Exactly how long is this movie? 7 seconds is a fantastic guess. It is wrong, but it's a fantastic guess nevertheless. Okay, take a look at two places in this window. 4 seconds, excellent, Rich. So there's two things that tell you exactly, exactly. It's 31 frames per second. We see that number in the Properties panel right here where it says FPS. Okay, but we also see, and this only shows up in Classic View, and that's why I like working in Classic View. We also see this little bar right over here, and it shows me how many frames there are. It shows me the frame rate, and it actually shows me how many seconds have transpired. Watch this number right over here when I scrub the playback head. That number changes. So it says, you're at second number 3, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. Okay? So Flash is a frame-based, time-based, keyframe animation program, and each of the frame numbers doesn't indicate amount of time, it indicates a frame number. And the time changes according to how you've set your frame rate. Now, as part of learning the Flash interface, you should know the following components. We should know this area here, this white space, and I'm just going to create another little layer so we can use this as directions. Directions, sure, why not? Okay, what we see here is we've got this, which is our stage. I'm going to select that and change the color of it. Okay, that's our stage. This area outside of the stage is known as the workspace. Okay, we've got the workspace, we've got the stage. You've got a ruler at the top of the screen here. You can turn the rulers on and off by selecting View Rulers. I like to have the rulers showing when it comes to working in Flash. And you can see 0, 0 is this top left-hand corner. So I can reset this. Let's see, how do I do this again? No, that's setting up a guide. Oh, let's see. Well, let's just leave it at that. 0, 0 is this top left-hand corner. And that becomes important later on when you're creating animations that involve ActionScript, that you need to know coordinates of objects. And the top left-hand corner is 0 along the x-axis, which is your horizontal line, and 0 along your y-axis, which is your vertical line. Okay, from the ruler we can also pull out guides and snap objects to those guides. Right? You can change the color of your guides by choosing Edit, Preferences, and you would need to then, where is the This is one of those little things that's buried somewhere in here. Groups, symbols, other elements. Oh yeah, I think we have to do this in a different way. I think we go to View, Guides, Edit Guides. Yeah, there we go. So we can change the color of our guides to something that maybe jumps out a little bit more. Okay, and guides can be very useful when you're, organizing various elements. We've got our stage, we've got our workspace, we've got our guides, we've got our rulers. We have up here, if you have multiple scenes in a movie, which is not something that we explore too much, but sometimes it is useful, you would see a list of those scenes here. So for example, if I had created multiple scenes, and I go back to scene 1, then I can access all of those scenes right here on the top right-hand corner. To the right of that is where I would be able to access any symbols that I had in my library. Now right now we don't have any symbols in our library. We don't even have a library set up yet. Actually, oh look, we've got, oh yeah, because this is not a project that I started. There are already a set of symbols in the library for the alphabet, and you can see those symbols show up here, and we can see that each of these symbols is actually animating inside of its own little timeline. So the elements that I'm pointing out right now, I don't expect you to keep track of all of, what just happened with how did he get into there, and then all of a sudden there's an animation inside of there. You don't need to keep track of that. Right now what we're keeping track of is the Flash interface. The fact that we've got the stage, the workspace, the rulers, the guides, the properties panel, which is where we earlier on were able to adjust the frame rate and change the stage color. And then we've got this little bar above the document window, which this icon is related to inserting additional scenes and accessing those scenes. This icon is related to a bunch of related to symbols, which we haven't talked about what symbols are, but this is how you get to those symbols that we haven't defined yet. Basically, symbols are like master copies that are being stored in the library panel inside of Flash. So we've got this document window really spelled out. We've got the properties panel nicely spelled out. We know that we can change the stage color there. We know that we can change the frames per second, the frame rate. And by the way, if I change the frame rate to a lower number, what's going to be a downside to doing that? What would be the downside to changing the frame rate to a lower number? Yeah, choppy quality. Richie's got all the answers today so far. Excellent. So if I make the frame rate higher, it's going to be smoother, but then again, I'm going to need more frames to cover the same amount of time, right? So the higher the frame rate, the smoother it is. The lower the frame rate, the choppier it is, but the fewer frames I need to create the same animation. Okay? And the properties panel also, you will know that the properties that show up here, when we have the stage selected, which is what we've got right now, we've just got the stage selected, the properties that we see are the frame rate, the size of the stage, right? And the color of the stage. That shows up in the properties panel. But the properties panel is contextual. If I select, for example, this text, the properties that show up are related to text. So we'd see the character, the font family, the size of the text, the color of the text, the formatting of the text, etc. All of that information would be showing up inside of the properties panel. So the actual properties that show up are contextual. It depends what object that you have selected, and the properties that show up will change according to whichever object that you have selected. Okay? The left-hand side is where we see our selection tools and our drawing tools, our pen tools, text tools, line tools, rectangle tools, etc. All of the tools that we work with inside of Flash are going to show up there. So that being the case, why don't we explore a little bit of some of the tools that we've got inside of Flash. So I'm going to create a new ActionScript 3 file by just clicking here. And we're not using any ActionScript right now, but that's the default file type that I would create. And you'll see the default frame rate for a new Flash document is 24 frames per second. And we see the size, default size is 550 by 400, 550 pixels wide by 400 pixels in height. And then we have our selection tool, our sub-selection tool, our free transform tool, our rotation tool, and our lasso tool. These 5 are selection tools, but there's nothing for us to select yet, so why don't we just grab a pencil tool to start with. And the first thing that you'll notice is down in this corner on the left-hand side of my screen, this little icon down here. This icon changes again according to each of the tools. And these are the options associated with each tool. So when I have the pencil, you see the options are straighten, smooth, and ink. If I have, let's say, the paint bucket, my options are gap size, closing gaps or not closing gaps, changing or locking the fill color, etc. So these are called the tool options. And as I just said, those options, just like the Properties panel, those options change according to which tool I've got. So I'm going to go back to select the pencil tool, and I'm going to make this color, I don't know, a little blue. And you'll see I have smooth set on my pencil. So if I wanted to create a little bit of a wave effect, you'll see it smoothed a little bit of that wave for me. What I can do then is I can select that, and right here on the left-hand side again, I can smooth it more. Okay, so the smooth feature is kind of unique to Flash. It's great for if you're kind of wanting to create some kind of effect, and let's say if I wanted to now make this look a little bit like oceanish, then I could make some copies of that. And the way I made copies is I just held the Alt key down and I dragged down below it. Then I might come in with a rectangle tool and make the color a little lighter, or maybe even a little darker. And then, there's my color that I'm looking for, and get rid of the stroke. And I'm going to make this alpha about 60. I'm not asking for that color, I'm asking for that color. And I can click and drag over there. And that should be, oops, it went on the wrong layer. Let me just put that on the correct layer. I would knock that down even more, change its opacity. And then I can come in with my selections here, and I can just kind of start bending this to just be background that goes along with my little wave lines. Now, obviously, I would spend some time and work on it to make it look like something that doesn't look just silly. But the idea here is that you can start using just some of these tools, and of course when I publish it, I just see the edge of the stage, right? And I don't see the workspace. Okay? But what I'm showing you right now is how when you use the drawing tools, whether it's the pencil tool or whether it's the rectangle tool, I'm able to add additional layers. But not only adding layers, I can also change the opacity of my fill color by either selecting that tool and adjusting the fill color here where I can access the alpha settings, or going into the properties panel where I can adjust the alpha settings by clicking on the color chip there. So one of the nice features of Flash is the fact that I can access all of those elements from both the properties panel as well as the bottom of the toolbar. So what I'm going to do this for about another 5 or 10 minutes, just give you a very quick exploration of the tools. And by the way, I'm using a mouse. I'm not using a tablet to draw right now, so that's why everything looks so, basic. But next class I should have my tablet up and running. So let's take a look at all of the drawing tools that we've got. I showed you that there's a rectangle tool, and as I said, each of the tools has a different set of properties. So with the rectangle tool, you'll see on the properties panel on the right-hand side a couple of things. There's the fill color, and then there's there's the stroke color, and then there's the fill color. Stroke is the outline and fill is the inside. If I click on the stroke color, I can change my stroke from here. If I click on my fill color, I can change it as well. I can also change the alpha of either of these by clicking and dragging through that number. I can now hold the Shift key down and I'll draw a perfect square. If I want to change that stroke now, I actually have to select the item, and I can adjust the stroke. Right? I can change the style of the stroke. Right? And if I selected that stroke again and I made it smaller, then you see how the style of that stroke can be changed on individual lines. Right? And I can give different styles to different sides. And then change how, the size of the stroke on the different sides. So you can see there's a lot of customization that you can do with the rectangle tool. If I select the entire rectangle, then I can make general adjustments. If I wanted to make the whole thing solid, I could do that. And if I wanted to make the size the same, I could do that, right? There are other things that I can do as well. I can even edit the strokes and change the thickness, change how sharp the corners are. If I was going to do something like this with stipple, I can actually randomize the sizes and make the dot size small, and then click on OK, and then you end up with something that looks like this. And I'm going to zoom in, and you can see what happens. There's my stipple. Okay? Now, one thing that you just saw when I zoomed in is the fact that there is no change in quality when I zoom in, because this is a vector-based program. Doesn't matter how much I zoom in. Right now, I'm zoomed into 2,000%. Everything looks as sharp as it would look at 100%. Okay? So there's no difference in the quality when you're dealing with vector graphics. Let's take a look at another tool. There's the oval tool. I can, and this has got some interesting features. I'm going to hold the Shift key down. When I draw my oval, it draws a perfect circle. But one of the things I can do with my oval is I can select the oval. Actually, I'll draw a new oval. I'm going to change my start angle and my end angle and my inner radius. So I'll hold the Shift key down, and I end up with something like that. So I can change my various angles of my oval anytime I want by adjusting the start and the end of the oval. Okay, and of course I can go in and adjust my styling to my stroke as well as my colors. One thing that you should be aware of when it comes to stroke and fill, if you see a line coming through it, yeah, I think it is. If you see a line going through it, it means that there is no fill in this case, right? But let's go on to a tool that has even, the next two tools are new, starting with the last couple of versions of Flash. But the rectangle primitive tool, I don't know why it's called primitive, but it's pretty neat. So I'm going to draw a little shape here. But watch what happens when I adjust this. So I can adjust the sides of the, I can adjust the corners of this rectangle on the fly like that, which is pretty cool. And then I could, if I wanted to, I could change my styling. I could also select the object and adjust the cap and the mitering as well, right? Let's take a look at the next one, which is the oval primitive tool. And this one is really nifty because this one on the fly you can adjust your start angle and your end angle, and you can do your Ms. Pac-Man type of thing. Right? Okay. You can also adjust your end angle. Okay. And you can adjust the inner radius. So quickly the letter C becomes a circle, right? So those are the 4 of the 5 tools that are listed underneath the rectangle tool. Let's finish up with the Polystar tool. I'll take these off the screen, and I'll click on here on the screen with the Polystar tool. And the first thing you'll notice with the Polystar tool, on the right-hand side where it says Properties, there's an option here that says, there's a tool setting that says Options. And the tool setting allows you to choose a polygon or a star. So if I choose the star, for example, I could then click on OK, and I could draw a star on the stage. Okay, and we can see the stroke isn't showing up very well here. So I'm going to select the object, and I'm going to make sure that there is a stroke. And right now it looks like the stroke is not turned on. Oh, there's the stroke. Why wasn't I seeing it? That's a little confusing. I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to select the Polystar, and it's showing me fill and stroke. Maybe because the stroke is a 0.10, and let's just make it a solid for right now. Oh, you see, that stroke was actually hiding on the stage. Couldn't even see it. So now I'm going to draw, and there's my star with stroke. And you'll notice, you would notice because I'm telling you, but if I single click on this line, it's going to take just that segment. If I double click on the line, it's going to take all of the stroke. Notice how I can separate the stroke from the fill. If I triple click, it takes the whole thing. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you something else which is unique about Flash. I clicked off of the star onto the stage to deselect the star. When I roll back over this line, it becomes this kind of curved shape. Like that. So when you roll your cursor over a segment, it becomes something that allows you to bend that segment. If you roll your cursor over the endpoint, it allows you something that allows you to stretch out that endpoint. Okay? So these are some tools that are, again, unique to Flash. I don't know any other program that has this different functionality. Flash is really the only program that I know that does some of that crazy stuff. So a couple of things that already should be reviewed. One is that we've got 5 different tools under the rectangle tool. And 2 is that we can adjust the stroke and the fill in the Properties panel. 3 is that when it comes to the Polystar tool, we can adjust whether it's a star or a polygon from the Properties panel. And we can also adjust the number of sides as well as the star point size. And 4 is when we have the Selection tool selected. When we roll over an object, we can roll over the segment of the object and bend the object. We can roll over the endpoint of an object and stretch the object out. Okay, so that's just a quick peek at some of the tools that are listed in the drawing tools. We're going to take a 10-minute break. When we come back, we're going to look at the pencil tool, the brush tool, the spray brush tool, the deco tool, the paint bucket, and the text tool. And that's going to be, and then we're going to look at some publishing settings that we need to know for our next class and look at the homework assignment. So it is now 2:13. We're going to take a 10-minute break. At 2:23, we'll start back up and continue our exploration of Flash. Thanks. 10-minute break. Okay, welcome back, and we were exploring the tools in the tool panel. A couple of things I want to just mention about the tools real quickly. I'm going to give you the quick names of these tools, and you'll find details of that on page 21 of the text. We've got the selection tool. We've got the sub-selection tool, which is good for making selections with elements that have individual points. For example, if I select the sub-selection tool, click here, you'll see all of these endpoints and all of these intersecting points I can select and adjust from. If I click on those, I can also, once I get into adding points, I can add points to those and then use the sub-selection tool to adjust those as well. You've got the free transform and the gradient transform tool. We'll use again the well, I'll just type the word in Flash. That'll work. Okay, and I've just converted this text to a shape. I'm going to zoom in on it by using the command and the plus key. Hold the space bar to properly position it. I can now take the free transform tool, select this object, I can scale it, I can rotate it, I can skew it, I can flip it, and reposition it. Okay, so the free transform tool is a nifty tool. The next one below that is the gradient transform tool. That's different than the free transform tool, and we're going to have to select a letter and apply a gradient to it in order for me to show you what is involved with this. So I'm going to go Control or Command plus one more time to zoom in, and we see that on this letter A, it's got a gradient. If I use the gradient transform tool and I click on that gradient, I can change where the source of light focuses. Oopsie. Right? So I can also change how much light there is on the object. I can rotate that object's light source and move it as I've already shown you. I can make it bigger. I can ellipsicize it more. A lot of things that I can do with the gradient transform tool. And when that becomes more interesting is if, let's see if I can do this. Okay, so now we just have this letter A. Where this becomes more interesting is if I take this and let's see, and I animate it. So here's my gradient transform tool, and then I'll go out to frame. I'll go out here and I'll create a shape tween. And then you'll see what I can do is I can take that point of light and then go out to here and move that point of light to a different location. And then what we end up with is something like that, right? And then, of course, if I wanted to take that whole thing, whole little animation here, and copy it, and then reverse those frames, then we'd see it cycling down and back up. Okay, so the gradient transform tool is a nifty little tool to work with. We have the 3D rotation tool and the 3D translation tool that we'll cover in greater detail in future classes. The lasso tool to select a portion of an object. We've got the pen tool I already showed you. It can add anchor points, it can delete anchor points, it can convert anchor points into curves. Then we've got the text tool. Let's use the text tool real quickly. I'll create a new ActionScript symbol, ActionScript thingy, and I'll type in Flash is cool. I'll change the color of that to something that's a little bit easier for us to read. I can then take that lettering and I can break it apart. By the way, I'm showing you a whole bunch of things here. All we're really focusing on is the names of the tools. Okay? I break those letters apart and I could say modify, timeline, distribute to layers. What just happened? It crashed. Flash just crashed on me. Okay, I'm going to restart it, but the idea is that each of these tools is going to give you some functionality that makes the tool enjoyable and useful to use. So there's my text at the top of the screen. I break that text apart and I then select all of that text and distribute the text to different layers, and then I can take this first layer and I can actually, I'll just do a real quick thing here, converting each of these layers into a shape, into a symbol, and by doing that I can do more animation with them. These are all techniques that we're going to be learning over the next few weeks, but I'm just demonstrating right now to you how you can create some interesting text effects. I can now create a motion tween that has this letter dropping down to there, okay? And then I can copy that motion and then select all of the rest of these and paste the motion, and in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail I end up with this. And then I can vary it by, whoops, you didn't mean to do that. You stay connected up there. There we go. and then I can vary it by having each one of these elements drop down at a different time. By moving their start points, their keyframes to different start points. And then when I test this, I end up with that. Okay, so text is much more versatile than you would imagine because you can do all kinds of nifty things with it. I then have the line tool. Line tool, if I hold the shift key down, I can draw straight lines very quickly and easily. And I could change the strokes of those lines into however, whatever method I want to have those strokes. And then, I can create roadways and things like that. Then we get down to the paintbrush. The paintbrush and the spray brush are two other tools that you can explore. The paintbrush, you can change the size of your paintbrush down here in the options. There is no way to use some of the keyboard shortcuts that you would use inside of a program like Photoshop to use like the bracket key to make, oh yes, it does work now. Oh, they've gotten up to scale. So you can use your bracket keys to make your brush smaller and to make it larger. Okay, spray brush, nifty tool. Let's get rid of these lines on the stage. Select the spray brush. We can choose to create a symbol. Like let's say I go back here and I select my Polystar tool and I create a little. Okay. I create that, and I turn that into a symbol, and then I create, oh, it didn't pick up the stroke there, and then I create another symbol, and I turn that into a shape also. First, I'm going to scale it down a little bit. A little more. Okay, good. And I turn that into a symbol. And now, getting back to that spray brush tool, I can go to my properties and I could say I want to use this symbol, and then I can spray that symbol on the stage. And I can make it a little less close together because that was just too close. Scale width, scale height. Let's see what happens if I make the brush smaller. Oh, too close together. See what happens when I make the brush bigger. That's better. So you can see you can essentially create custom brushes that you spray with the spray brush. That can be kind of a fun thing to do. You then have the Deco tool, and the Deco tool is an awesome tool. Do things like that just in one click. Create a bunch of vines. You can create fire animation. Bingo. That easy to create a fire animation. A flower brush. A poinsettia flower. A berry. A lot of really nifty tools inside of the toolbar. The bone tool we're going to be covering in about week 4 or 5. We've got The paint bucket, I've already talked about that. The eyedropper allows you to select colors. Obviously, you've got your eraser tool. You can use the bracket keys to make your eraser bigger. And notice those elements are not erasing because they're actually complex shapes. You would be using the eraser tool on simple shapes, not complex shapes like we just created. So if I had a rectangle and then I got my eraser tool, I could erase, right? But the eraser tool has some very interesting options. So if I go back here and I choose my star and I make the stroke in that star a bit bigger, then if I get my eraser tool, eraser, I can choose the options that are associated with each of the tools. Remember earlier I told you that the last two icons at the bottom are options associated with that particular tool. I can say I want to erase just the fills. So even if I go over the stroke line, it's only erasing the fill. It's kind of nifty. And then I can say, you know what? I want to erase just the stroke. That would be lines in this case. And I could start erasing lines. Right? So the options associated with things like the eraser tool are different than you'd find in any program. So you do want to pay careful attention to the options that show up on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. Okay? So Lesson 1 and Lesson 14 are the lessons that you're going to be completing for next class. You're getting exposure to a lot of the things in Lesson 1 today because I've been going over the Flash interface with you. You'll have no trouble completing the lesson. So what I want to do for the remaining time that I have with you is talk about the publishing elements related to Flash that show up in Lesson 14 called Delivering Your Movie. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a file from Lesson 14. And let's just open up this one and this one. Okay? So here's a little file that we have, this little thing growing. Kind of boring, so we'll get rid of it. Instead, we'll look at this lamppost, which is moving off the stage from right to left. And what we want to look at is what happens in Flash when you publish a file. So I'm going to put a little marker in here. When you publish a Flash file, you take your FLA file, which is what we're working with right here, like it says here, lamppost.fla, and you convert it to a file that can be viewed in a web browser. And that file type is an SWF file. So there's a couple of steps involved in that process. One step is when you test your movie in Flash, you select Control Test Movie. And the first time, if you choose in Flash Professional, it will always test it like that when you choose Control Enter as your keyboard shortcut. In other words, if I do Control Enter and I said Test Movie within the Flash environment, it will always continue to do it like that. So I click on that link, and it's created this SWF file for me. Okay? What I mean by that is if I now go to this folder, you'll see there's this file here, lamppost.swf. So there are two different file names associated with just this aspect of Flash. Later on when we get into video, there are more file types. But for what we're doing in the first half of the semester, we're going to be authoring our FLA files, and we're going to be producing our SWF files. And one of the things that you'll notice is that the size of an FLA file is much larger than the size of a SWF. Now these are tiny little files all together, but this one is roughly 9.9K, whereas the SWF, which is based on that file, is all of less than 1K. It's 935 bytes. Okay? So the export file, the file that we create that is published on a web page, is the SWF file. Okay? So you've got the FLA file as your authoring file and your SWF file as your final product. Just like in Photoshop, you'd be authoring in a Photoshop document or a PSD file, and you'd be publishing a JPEG or a PNG or a GIF or any portable file types like that. Okay? But the other thing that you want to know about publishing in Flash is how you can control all of the publish settings. So to control the publish settings for a document, what you do is you select Edit. You have the document open, and you select, not Edit, I'm sorry, you select File, Publish Settings. And it brings up this Publish Settings dialog box. Inside of the Publish Setting dialog box, it shows you that what's going to happen is it's going to create a file with the same name as your FLA file, except it's going to give it a file ending of SWF instead. But in addition, it's going to create what's called an HTML wrapper. In other words, there are two different files that get published from one FLA just by default. One is the SWF file, but that gets embedded into an HTML page. Now the publish settings of the SWF file include controlling the quality of the images that you're using, including actually protecting it from import, password protecting the file, and some other features that we'll be getting into, including the quality of your audio. The HTML wrapper portion allows you to not only create the HTML page, but detect which version of Flash that the end user is using, and also control the size of the movie, whether it matches the stage size or whether it is a percentage. So let's just take a look at what happens when I click on OK here for these publish settings. And then I select Control Test Movie in Browser. It launches a browser, and it's going to create an HTML page that goes with this file. Okay? And as you can see, there's my page. Right? It's up in the top left-hand corner, and it just keeps on repeating. And what we see is the stage size, no matter how big the browser window, the stage size is matching the movie's contents. But if I go to my file publish settings, and I choose for my HTML wrapper to make the size %, and then I tell it not to loop, for example, and I click on Publish, and I should see this when I test my movie now, but if not, I know how to show you how to do it. It launches the browser. Yep, and look what's happened. No matter how big my browser window gets, my movie is scaling to the size of the browser. So it's very interesting, because if all of a sudden I was looking at this on a mobile device, I'd still be able to see the movie. Okay? If I look on a big desktop, I can see it scaled at a larger version. So what you want to do is you want to make sure to examine the publish settings inside of Chapter 14. And you really only have to go up to page 417, which is where it talks about the basic publish settings. The rest of the publish settings we'll cover later in the semester. But you want to be able to take care of both of those things, because the following week, after next week, our second week of the semester, we're going to be publishing our first file. So whereas your assignment for next week is to complete the check-in process and read lessons 1 and 14 and complete the Getting Started quiz, which is based on my FAQ page, you want to know that next week you're going to be creating your first Flash project, which is going to require that you are able to publish the file as well. Okay? So that's really the conclusion of our class today. What we did was we covered our administrative details. We introduced Adobe Flash CS6. We looked extensively at the interface, including the timeline, the stage, the workspace, the properties panel, and then we examined the various tools and how the properties panel changes according to whichever tool you've got selected. And then finally, we examined the publish settings from File, Publish Settings. Okay? Are there any questions at this point before we wrap it up for today? Okay, good. Okay. Well, if there are any questions, remember there are no dumb questions. Please feel free to ask any questions that you like. What you want to do is you really want to just read through that lesson 1 and lesson 14 in the book. Watch the videos that go with each of those lessons in the book and complete that Getting Started quiz. And you might want to consider setting yourself up with a student.santarosas.edu email account if that's something that's useful for you. Otherwise, there's your brief intro to Flash. Next week, we really get our hands dirty doing a lot more drawing and creating our first file for submission to our gallery. I also want to encourage you to go to that Flash homepage and explore those student work examples to get some ideas. So if there are no other questions, that's a wrap for today. I do really appreciate when people show up live in the class. I hope to see you guys next week as well. Thanks.